So hey guys, how's it going on? Welcome back to a brand new episode on the channel, and today in this episode we are going to cover JavaScript in a single shot. So in the previous two lectures we have covered HTML and then CSS, and today we will be learning JavaScript, and then you can start building actual web pages right from the scratch on your own. So before we start this episode, I want to clear a very big misconception for few people. Java and JavaScript are not at all related. They are totally, completely two different languages. All right. They are totally different languages. There is no relation between Java and JavaScript, and I hope you will keep that point in mind all the time. So now let's get started without any further ado. So first of all, as other programming languages like C, C++, Java, Python, and all other things, JavaScript is also a different programming language. So to describe it briefly, we can say JavaScript is a lightweight interpreted programming language which is primarily used for web pages. Like you can add interactivity to your websites using JavaScript. So it is the language which is mainly used for websites. But JavaScript is a super powerful language. You can actually do anything with JavaScript with the current modern tech. You can build applications, you can build games, you can use it in AIML, you can build backend servers, you can build front-end websites, which is its usual job, and you can do a lot more just with JavaScript in itself. So if you want to say like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, together they make a trio in web development, which are key to web development. So this is the basic intro about JavaScript. Now let's go with the other things. So now, where does JavaScript run? There are two places where we can run JavaScript. One is the web, which we already know. We can run JavaScript on the web, which is its main task. And the other thing is server side. So we can also run JavaScript on the server side, or you can say we can run it on Node.js. Now, what is Node.js? We will learn that later in this playlist, but to keep it brief, it is something which using which you can run JavaScript on the server side as a server. You can turn your JavaScript code into a server. So that's what the main use of Node.js is. We will learn about Node.js later in this playlist. So for now, let us say if you want to test JavaScript on a website, you run it on the website. But if you want to use like on the server side, that is the backend part of your website, then you can just simply go for Node.js or server side rendering. Is that clear? Now, what is the role of JavaScript in web development ecosystem? So the main purpose is it enhances user interactivity, such as form validations, or you can say dynamic elements, changing elements, and you can also create single page applications using JavaScript. Isn't that cool? So that's all the basic intro about JavaScript. Now let's get into our VS Code and start seeing the basics of JS. So first of all, I'll create a simple file. Let's just say app.js, and within this, my bad. Let me just and let's just create a new file with the name app.js, and now we have created a basic JavaScript file. Now to run JavaScript on the web, you don't need to install any application, but if you are supposed to if you want to run it on, let's say, a command line, then you will be needing Node.js to run it on your command line. All right. So I will give the link to Node.js in the description. You can get it from there. So this is app.js, all right. So if you want to start, it's like a simple programming language, like other features which are in other programming languages like data types, for loops, operators, all other things, all those things are in here. But that was not the case with HTML, CSS. Those are two different things. And JavaScript is a simple programming language. So first of all, let's talk about variables. So in JavaScript, we have three types of variables. One is let us say let some x is equals to 10. So I have defined x as 10. Now in JavaScript, this is like a variable declaration, and this is the variable name, this is the assigning operator, and this is the value. And this is a semicolon to say that, yeah, this line has ended here. So now what does this let means? Now in JavaScript, you don't need to declare any data type here. It is it dynamically adjusts itself for the data type which you give value here. All right. So now if I say print, I mean, it's not Python. So in JavaScript, to print something, you do console.log, and within that, you type the variable name. Now it should print this 10. Now if I save it and run it via Node.js in my command line, I can just do here, go click on run and run without debugging, and I'll select Node.js here, and you can see it printed 10 here, right? Now, if I say x equals to 20, and then I want to do something like console.log x and hit save, and if I do run it again, you will see 10 and then 20. What if I make this let as a const? If I hit save and then if I run it again, I got an error. Assignment to a constant variable. So what does constant mean? That I can't change the value of x anytime later once it is defined. And what does let mean? Let means I can change it. I can even change the data type. Let's say Ashish here. And if I hit save and if I run it, you can see I changed the data type. So it's working fine. That's the magic of JavaScript. But if I make it const, it's not going to work. So these are the two data types. All right. Now coming to the next one, which is variable. Let's do some magic with it as well. So let's say x is equals to 10, and then we are going to log it. And then let's just log the x, control S save. And then if we run it, we see 10 as usual. And now let's just change x to 20 and see if it's working. So you see in variable as well, we can, it similar to let keyword, we can also change values in the variable keyword as well. So to illustrate the main difference between the let and var keyword, what it is that it where creates a variable like globally, whereas it's different with let. You can only use that keyword after its initialization. So let me just give you an example. So what I'm going to do is, let us say we log x. Right now x is logged, but I haven't defined any x, all right? And now I'm going to create let x is equals to 14, and then I'm going to again log x, all right? Again, I'm going to log x. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it and run this file. So you can see I got an error saying cannot access x before initialization. But what if I make it where we if I make it where you will see an undefined here. So if I refresh, you can see undefined. It means that some x is there, but I don't know what its value. It was never defined, so it gives me undefined. So that's the difference between uh, our x, I mean the let and the where keyword. All right. And now coming to data types, there are various different types of data types in JavaScript, like string, number. So let's just see a list of them first. So if you can see, we have two different types of data types in JavaScript. One is primitive and the other one is non-primitive. So in primitive data types, these are string, number, boolean, null, undefined. So the difference between null and undefined is that null means the variable is defined, but it doesn't have a value. Whereas undefined means we just haven't defined any variable at least. At least there is no variable. Coming to symbols, symbols create a different object type which is not string. Let me show you an example. So let us say we have let s is equals to a symbol in which I'll give something like, let's say ooh, and then I print this. I mean, I console log it as control as save, and then if I run it, you see it is a symbol, it's not something like that. If I say something like console log, and if I say let us create two symbols, let us say let s2 is equals to another symbol a similar symbol, let's say foo only. If I hit save and in here, if I say s1 double equals to s2 and try to return it, you can see I got s1. Okay, my bad. Now you can see I got a false because, or else if you either do it this way, that is just copy this thing and then double equals to this way. If I run it, you'll see false again. So for symbols, these two things are not the same. Each time we use this symbol thing, it will create a new instance for an object. If you know the basics of oops, you will get this thing, but I'll be telling in detail about oops a little later in this episode. All right. So now let's go for the next part, which are non-primitive data types, which are we have objects and arrays. Now that part, this much part is cool. Now there are various operators as well, such as we have various operators, which are plus, let's say we have minus, we have multiplication, we have division, and then we have the modulo operator, which is used to get the remainder, and we have various comparison operators as well, like double equals to or triple equals to. Now the difference between double equals to and triple equals to is that double equals to is like comparing operator and triple equals to checks for the value as well as the data type. In this triple equals to the data type should also be same. So that is why it is used. And then we have the not equals to operator and then we have not double equals to. It is the same. It checks about the data type as well, along with the value. And then we have less than and greater than. All right. So these are the two other things which we have. And then coming to logical operators, we have the AND operator, we have the OR operator, then we have the NOT operator. So these are the different types of operators in JavaScript we have. You can use this in if statement or anywhere you want. If we talk about an example, let us say uh, let is adult, let's define a variable saying is adult equals to age if age now that if age greater than equals to 18, this will return us a true, and age is let's say less than 60. In this case we have something like we can say nothing. So if I comment all these things because they were the ones causing us errors, and then if I just log is adult, and then if I run it, you can see age is not defined. Okay, we need to assign some variable age here. So let us say age, let age equals to 25, and if I hit save, control F5 run, you can get true. If I make it, let's say 17, and then run, I get false. So these are the operators which we used, the AND operator, the comparing operators, and yeah, that is how it is working. And coming to the next part, let's talk about conditional statements such as if statements and else statements. So there are various conditional statements. You can use if else, else if, and then you have switch case statements. So let's see example for that. So let us again say we have an age variable which is currently 15. Let's say we are going to say if the age is greater than equals to 18 and age is less than equals to 60. In this case, print, I mean log. So guys, pardon me, I'm using print constantly because on a daily basis I use Python nowadays. So I'm writing JavaScript after a long time. That's why I'm habituated to print statement. So that's just it, nothing else. So if we say here eligible to vote, all right. In the else statement, we have not eligible to wait, not eligible to vote. Now, if I save this and do something like Control F5, which will run my code, and you can see not eligible to vote. If I make it, let's say 35, we have eligible to vote. Now, to use an else if statement, you can do something like this. So, else if we can do, and then here I can say if age greater than 60, I want to say log. Age greater than 60, we can say. Okay. If here we can say log, we can say age less than 18. Now, if I just format the code, save it, and then if I run this thing, you can see eligible to vote. If I make it 15, you can see age less than 18. If I make it 65, you can see age greater than 60. So this is how we use if, else if, and else statements. And then coming to switch case, we can do something like this. Let's say we have a variable, let us say day is equals to Monday, and then we have a switch case over this day. Now, here, if you say the case is if the day is Monday, we can say something like log. We can say today is Monday. All right. Now, if the case is, let's say, okay, after the console log, we need to break. And then if we do something like case Tuesday, if Tuesday is the case, we'll say if the variable day is equivalent to Tuesday, then what we do is say today is Tuesday. It's as simple as that. And then again break. Similarly, we can do for all other days as well. I'm assuming you can do that on your own because it's quite simple. You just do case and then console log and then break. And then for the default case, we can do something like log, and then we can say something like invalid input. Now, if I hit save and just run this thing, you can see today is Monday. If I make it Tuesday, run it, today is Tuesday. If I make it something else random, you can see invalid input. Now that's how switch case statement works in JavaScript. And coming to the next part, we can talk about loops. So to creating a for loop, you can use something like for keyword and then a bracket to declare the variables and iterations constants. So the variable, let us take I is equals to 0 and then a semicolon, and then the limit, let's say I less than 5, and then let's say I plus plus, which will increment the I after each iteration. And then I'm just simply going to do log this I, so it will print us from 0 to 4. All right. If I hit save and run this, you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So the shortcuts I'm using is Control S to save, Control F5 to run. So as you can see here, when we go on to run without debugging, you can see Control F5. That is what I'm pressing for shortcut to run the file. All right. And coming to other loops, let's say a while loop. Let us take a variable let I is equals to, let's say 10, and then I'm saying while I is less than 10, or just say I is greater than 0, we are going to print log I, and then we will be reducing the I. So we're doing I minus minus, and then we hit save, Control F5, and we run it, and you can see here 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there is another type which is obviously you should know that it's do while loop. So in here, let us again create a variable. Let us say I is equals to 10 again, and we just need to create a do while loop. Now we do, and then we run a while. We give a while condition for this. Now, what does this do is that in the while condition, I'll again give the same condition, and let's just make it 0, and again the log here, we'll log the I, and then we'll I minus minus. If we hit save, run it, you can see the same output 10 9. Now, what is the difference between while and do while loop? Now, suppose I make it 10. Now, I is not greater than 10, right? Because this condition, because I is 10, so this condition is not valid. Even though this condition is not valid, this will run at least once. All right, if I hit save, run it and show you, you can see 10. 10 is still printing. Even if I make it, let's say 100, it will still work. You can see 10 again. I again got 10. If I change it to, let's say 15, even though the condition is not valid, I will get 15 here. So that's why do while loop is used to run the iteration at least once. Now let's see how we can create functions in JavaScript. So to create a function in JavaScript, what we can do is we can use the function keyword to declare a function and then give the function name. So let's say my func is my function name. Now here you can take parameters such as, let's say, name is a string, and then we just do this, and then we can return something like hello. You can say hello, and then you can use something like this name, and then just do this. So I'm going to say log again, and I'm going to call this my function with the parameter Ashish, let's say. All right, I will save it, I'll run it, and you can see hello Ashish. If I give a space here, we should see hello space Ashish. Now this is how you define functions. You don't need the parameter type here. You can just directly give these. So like Python in JavaScript as well, you don't need to declare variable types. You can dynamically change them. All right. That's the major advantage of JavaScript and Python over other programming languages, which just reduces your time. And there is one simple thing I want to tell you. You need not go into the depth of it, but for now, if you need type declarations and stuff like this in JavaScript as well, because in future for some applications you don't want to get a wrong data from the user. So for that you put in type validations, etc. For that we use something known as TypeScript. It is also a language which is totally based on JavaScript. TypeScript and JavaScript are very much similar. Just the only difference is TypeScript take care of the type. So it's named TypeScript. That's it. So just know about this. Nothing else is needed for now. Now there is one other way of using functions in JavaScript, which is called as arrow functions. So let us say there is a function called add. So let's say a function add which takes parameters a comma b, and it simply returns a plus b, which is a function to add two numbers, right? So if I do log and then I do something like, let's say, add, and I'm going to say 10 comma 15, and if I run this, we'll see 25. That was obvious. Now I want to define another function with similar functionality. Let's do for subtract right now. So I'm going to create a variable using arrow functions. I mean function using arrow functions. So let's say const and let's say subtract. It takes two parameters a comma b and it returns, okay, not brackets. We use an arrow and then we do something like this and we return a minus b. Now if we hit save and then if I just do log and if we just simply do something like subtract 25 comma 10, if we have, I save control F5 and then if you see, you can see 15 here. Now, isn't that cool? That is the same thing. All right. If you don't have something to do, if you directly want to return the value, you can also do as a minus b here and it will still work the same. You can see it is still working the same. So that is, these are the two ways in which you can define functions in JavaScript. And coming to the next part, let us get with arrays. Now, how do we use arrays in JavaScript? So, arrays in JavaScript are also dynamic. You don't need to declare the size of the array. You can just keep on popping or appending the items or elements into the array. So that is a very good feature of JavaScript. So coming to this, let us simply say to create an array, we something let's say nums is an array which consists of some numbers. So let us say 10, 20, 30, let's say 40 and 50. All right, now this is it. Now, if I want to log this nums, I can simply do that. And you can see we get the nums like this. Okay, now there are some functions. Let's say if you want to append some value into this, so we can just do nums dot push, and then we can append, let's say 60. And then if I again log nums here, and if it hits save and see, you can see this was initially the array, then this was after pushing. Now, after that, we can use some other methods. Let us say nums.pop. This will remove the last element from nums. So if I do log nums and hit save, and if I run it, you see I removed 60 again. And if you want to do something like print the elements of the array one by one, you can do something like nums dot for each. For each, you can get the element, and then you can do something like print the element. I mean, console log it. If I hit save and run it, you can see the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. If we take another parameter, let's say I represents index and D represents the element. So if I say I hit save and run it, you can see 10, 0, which is the index of 10, and like this you can do. So this is like an array iterator, all right? So these are the basics of arrays in JavaScript. Coming to the next thing, let's say objects. So let's say we have an object named person, and we'll do something like this. Let's give him a name. Let's say name Naruto. All right. And then we give him, let's say age. So age of Naruto is like 21. Now this person is being created. Now if we want to do something like, let's say log to print something about him, you can just do person dot name, and if I run this, you can see Naruto here. Similarly, you can do for person dot age as well. You will see his age. And if we have, let's say, some function, let's say some function greet, and you can do something like this, and then let's just say log, and it's say hola, or let's just say baka. And if we hit save and then run it, I haven't logged this thing, so let's just do greet. And if I hit run again, you'll see baka and then undefined because it is not returning anything. If we say something like return baka, it will work fine this time with no undefined. You can see now that is cool, right? Now what we do next is let's see about oops in JavaScript, some basic oops. Uh, so let's just say let us create a class called, let's say, car. In this car we want to have a constructor, so I'll have a constructor. So to define a constructor, this is the keyword. You use the constructor keyword and give a variable, or you can say the argument to be passed, and we'll say just say this dot brand is equals to the brand which is passed. Now let's say this is the constructor, and we'll say a start function which will start the car. So we have console.log, let's say uh, this dot brand, and then car is starting. We can say something like this. He is starting. All right. Now, if we have done this and then we'll do return. So this much is fine. Now this is a function and a constructor. Now what we do is we create an instance of this car. So let us say let my car is equals to a new car, and then what we do is let's give it, let's say, a BMW. All right, that's the name of my car's brand. And then I'm going to say my car dot start. Now if I hit save and then just do Control F5, you can see BMW is starting. Now I'm just going to a simple trick to you. Now to concat, these are two strings, right? This dot brand is a string, is starting. So I am printing them, or you can say console logging them by using a plus. There is another method which is called as a format string, you can call it. So what we do is we use backticks this time, not quotes. These are backticks. And then we use a dollar symbol, and this between this we can give the variable name, which is this dot brand for now, which is a variable, right? And then we can say is starting. This way also it will work the same way. You can see BMW is starting. So that how this is just a simple string. You can call it like format string, something like that. Now let's go for the part two, DOM manipulation in JavaScript. So now coming to DOM manipulation, what is it in the first place? So DOM stands for Document Object Model. So now what is a document object model? So you remember, right, in the first lecture we did HTML. It was a document which represents a website structure. So DOM is used to restructure HTML as per our needs for interactivity. You can say I want to edit some component when I click on a button, right? I want to do that. Something like that. Okay, so I'll show you an example in a very few seconds. So let us say we go to a website. Let us say we go to Amazon.in itself. If I click on this, or you can see if I take if I take cursor onto this, you can see that I am showing this component, right? So what would I have? I would have something like when I take my cursor over to this section, I want to show this particular component onto the screen. That is what I'm doing it. Now this can be done using DOM manipulation, using effects like on mouse over, on mouse exit, on button press, something like that. All right. Let's just get into more detail into it. So now we have let us say we have this. So what I want is we have a calculator which takes an input, and we have a button to add those two things, which shows our response somewhere here. It shows a response somewhere here. So suppose let's we have 1 plus 2. So after pressing onto this button add, what happens is we get 3 here. After after pressing this add button only we get this 3 here. So that we can do using DOM. So that is the main job of how DOM works and why it is used. So now let's talk about different DOM methods, etc. So before we start, now let's just create an HTML file for this lecture. So I'm just going to create something like, let's say, index.html. And then what I'm going to do is do the doc type declaration and the basic stuff, hit save. And then in the body, let's do something like h1. All right, h1. And let's just say, hello, Naruto. All right, we have this. Now, if I hit save and then press on go live, I can see this Hello Naruto as a website, right? It's currently zoomed in. So let's just keep it that way for now. After this, I will create a button. Let's say button. And for this button, let's say click me. That will be the thing I will be giving it for now. So we have this click me button. On clicking it, nothing is going to happen. So now what I want to do is I will go into the app.js. I will go into the app.js file, and then I will do something like const btn, the button is equals to document. Now from the document class, I mean the object, we can access everything about the document. And then I just want a query selector, which is a method to select something, some element, some class, some ID. So I want to select the H1. So I have selected the H1 now. Document.query selector H1. I have selected the H1 from the index.html file. And now this. But wait a second. How does this JavaScript file know the H1 from this index.html file? We have not even linked it. You're absolutely correct. We are going to link it. All right. How to do that? I'm going to tell you just in a few seconds or few minutes. Okay. So we just got this button, and then what we need, we got the button, and then we do btn dot. We want to add an event listener, which is on click. We add an event listener saying on click. So on click, we call an arrow function here. We call an arrow function. What does this do? Now we want to change the text of that H1. So now what we do is we select that H1 as well. So I'll say heading 1 is equals to something similar. We'll just sudo document. Okay, my bad. This is not an H1. This is a button and this is going to be H1. All right. So what we are going to do is heading 1 dot text content is equals to, I'm going to say something like hello Ashish. From hello Naruto, we will be changing it to hello Ashish now. If I hit save right now, nothing will happen because I haven't linked it. Now to link our JavaScript file, what we do is we use something known as script. Now within the script, we have an opening tag, closing tag, and in the source, we attach our JavaScript file. Now it should be working fine. Now we refresh it. It's there. Everything is there. If I click me, okay, so nothing is happening right now. Let's see what the error might be. Let's open the console to check for JavaScript consoles. If I see if it's working properly or not. Let's just say log something for debugging purposes. Let's say hello. If I refresh, click on click me, I can't see even hello. So the on click add event listener is currently not working. Let's see why it is for. So I think it might be because, okay, here's the issue. It's not click, it's not on click. We have to keep it in a string and say click here. Now, if I hit save, it should work fine and proper. If I click me, you can see. You can see this became hello Ashish and this became hello. So that's how this add event listener works. And you can do something like, let us say, or you can say something like mouse move, or you can say mouse enter. So when I take the mouse over to this, you can see the thing changed, right? Again, see this. As soon as I take the mouse over to the click me, I'm not pressing anything. I'm just taking it over and you can see everything changed, right? So that is mouse enter. Similarly, you can have other properties as well. Now, for now, let's just keep it to this. Click, mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse over, mouse move. There are many other options. So now coming to the next part, we can also set and change styles using this DOM manipulation. So let's just create something. Okay, let's just not create a CSS file. It will just make the video lengthy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the text. I mean the color of this thing. So we can say heading one. We heading one dot set attribute. I want to set a new attribute. In the previous lecture, I told you like we can do inline styling, right? That is what I'm currently doing. So I'm going to change the style attribute, and then its value is going to be color. So let's make the color equals to red. Now if I save it, as soon as I click it, you can see the color is also changed to red. Similarly, you can also add classes and do a lot of stuff with it. Classes, you can add IDs so that so you will style that class with some styling in CSS, right? With that, if you add that class after this button click, all those stylings will be applied to this particular text. That's how it works. So this is how DOM manipulation majorly works. Like you select the element, you add its attributes, you change its text content, you add some more elements into a particular div box or section or something like that, and that's how you manipulate the DOM based on the user's interactivity. So that is what DOM manipulation is mainly for. Now let's talk about API fetching. So let us see what are APIs. So let me close this. All right. So API means application programming interface. So let us say we have some data from our backend coming in. Let us say a list of users, a list of posts from Instagram, something like that. And we get that data, the link to the image, the title of the post, the comments in there, the number of likes, the number of comments, all this data we get in some format. And then we use that we get that data, and once we get that data we show that in our front end into our HTML. All right, that is called API fetching, or you can say getting the data fetching, something like that. So it stands for application programming interface, so that is the main purpose. Now how to get the data? Now in JavaScript there are multiple methods such as fetching, Ajax. So Ajax stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Nowadays we don't use Ajax much, not very much. Majorly we use fetch method, and then if you are using React, which we will be using later on, then we use something known as Axios, which is a package for simplifying this fetching thing. But for now, let's use the fetching API or fetch API, which JavaScript provides us. So here we are on our app.js. I will not use this index.html for now. So I'm just going to delete this file. Deleted it. Now we have this app.js. So now in here, before we start coding, I want to show you how an actual API looks like. So this is a website which just gives you some fake APIs for testing and all. So I will give the link in the description. You can check it out there. So let's just find some. So you can see this example. This is how we use it. So let's get some API. So let's say slash post. So you can see all this data about a list of posts. So what I'm going to do is, let's just say we copy this link, and now we come to our VS Code. Now what we do is we put on a fetch request. Now we want to fetch a request, and here we will provide the link of our API. And once we got some data, we'll say dot then. Once we got some data, what we are going to do is we are going to take its response. And once we have taken the response, we use arrow functions here. So once we got it, I'm going to do something like log my response in JSON format. All right. So in web development and in JavaScript, we majorly use JSON format, which is which stands for JavaScript object notation. And then once we log this thing, what we do next is we again do dot then to actually log this data. So let us say this is the response. Okay, we are returning some response.json. So instead of logging it right there, we'll return a response.json here. So I'll write the return keyword here. So we are returning this response.json once we have this. Now it is all right. Now what we do is then again we do dot then. Okay. And this time we get the data from that response.json. Now that response.json is the data, and again we do. So now here we can do log this data, and we can just simply use that data now from here. All right. Now what we do next is next we can use something like dot catch. This catch is used to find if there are any errors while we are fetching the APIs, like 404 error, which says the API is not found, Similarly, we have other errors as well. So let's say we got catch of an error. If we did, so ERR here means an error. Now we can, like any error comes in, it will store that error in the ERR variable. That is what it means. So if we got an error, I'm going to show it as a console.error and pass in that error here. That's it. Now if I hit save, it is done and fine. Now remember, in JavaScript, we have something like console.log, then we have console.error, and then we have something like console.warn and a few others. So why are these used for? Console log is used for basic printing statements and console error to show errors, console warn to use some warnings which come in yellow color. So if I hit save and if I run this thing, you will see all the data we have. Hundreds of data as a list. If I can't open it right now, but okay. Let us open this in our index.html file. So I'll quickly create another index.html file, my bad. So here I will attach the script. We'll turn it off for once. And in here we'll get the source, we'll do dot slash app.js, hit save. Now here we are doing console log data and we save and then start our server again. Okay, not this one. We come to index.html and then click on go live. If I open up the console, you can see we have an array of 100 items and each array contains body, ID, title as in here. Body, ID, title, and user ID as well, as you can see here. So all this data we have. Now, what I want to do is let us show all this data in our HTML file here. All right. So what we do is let's create a div. So we have this div right now in app.js. I'm going to select that div quickly. So I'm just going to say const my div is equals to document dot query selector div. I selected the div. Now once I've selected the div, I got here some data, right? Now what is this data coming as? It is coming to us as an array. So what we do is, so we use the for each and we append the data to that my div as some certain HTML code, all right? So what we are going to do is data dot for each. Let's use a for each. So data dot for each element, I'll say e. So what we are going to do, we're going to say my div dot inner HTML. Now inner HTML means it is a div, right? We can add new HTML components into this. So I'm going to add new HTML components into that. And then I'm going to use backtext to write my HTML code here. Let's quickly write some code here and then we can remove it from here and use that in the JavaScript file. So let me show you what I mean. So what are the data we have here? We have ID, title, body, right? So let us say a p tag which contains the ID, and then we have, let's say, an h3 which contains the title. Here we will have the ID title, and then we will have, let's say, another p for the body or content, and then we will add a break tag to create a break. All right, now I will just control X this, remove it from here and paste it here. Now, as I'm using a format string, what I can do here is I can use this, and in here I'll do e dot. For the current element, I want to get the ID. Same thing I will do below. I want to get e dot title and e dot body. So here I'll do e dot title, and then I would like to get e.body. So now, my bad, there is a mistake. Okay. So now if I hit save and go here, you can see all my data is here right now. So if I zoom out, you can see all the data is in the HTML itself. All those files, all the data of those 100 posts is right in here. So this is how you can fetch APIs and add them. Instead of BR, if I add the HR tag, we should see lines differentiating them. So this is how API fetching works. This is how DOM manipulation works. So this is how JavaScript and Basic together works with HTML and CSS and every other thing. So in the next episode, which is going to be a very important one, we are going to build an amazing website right from the scratch so that you can get a very tighter grip over HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, all three in a single episode. So make sure you don't miss it. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for watching. I will meet you back again with another badass video just like this one. Until then, bye bye, guys.